Hello everyone and welcome back. So in this video we're going to begin taking a look at the new terrain patch, and we're guessing 5-6 videos to get through the creation / implementation of it. So Lee, terrain mesh, terrain patch, what's going on here?
Well, in our early sessions when we were setting up the system, we only had a terrain patch. And there was no such thing as a terrain mesh. It was all part of the terrain patch.
Okay.
The problem that I had with having just a terrain patch was the system was getting too complicated. Basically, it was a patch that was doing some management stuff for us, as well as controlling the visual aspect of the mesh. So what I wanted to do is break up that one single large class into multiple classes based on their functionality. So what I did is I broke the terrain patch into the two classes, one being the terrain patch, and then I created another class called the terrain mesh. The terrain mesh itself is the visual component of a terrain patch, meaning that it is the mesh filter, the mesh render, the mesh collider, and keeps track of the individual vertices, normals, tangents, colors, and UVs.
So all the actual mesh related stuff.
Exactly. Now, the terrain patch, on the other hand, has a very specific role in coordinating between the terrain manager, the object pool, and the terrain mesh itself. Basically, it's the terrain patch's job to, once it's created, to go look and see if the object pool has any available terrain meshes that can be reused, and if it does, it will pick one and reuse it. But if it doesn't find any, it will create a new terrain mesh. It will then also coordinate with the vertex cache to request height information, normal information, and tangent information that it can then use to be passed off to the terrain mesh, so we can see a mesh in the world that has some height information to it. It also has some further responsibilities in that it will have a method that will allow us, a property that will allow us to turn the visibility of a mesh on and off. It will also be responsible for checking in a mesh when it's done. So basically, if the terrain manager signals the mesh saying, hey, I don't need you anymore, the terrain patch will then perform the needed cleanup to get the mesh ready to be reused by the next patch that comes along that needs it.
Okay.
So it's just kind of like a little middleman that just, coordinates different parts of our terrain system.
Well,
so
basically
the
idea of a terrain patch is that it's a bit more than just the visual aspect that we see on the screen. So a terrain patch is going to hold a terrain mesh, and the terrain mesh can worry about all of its components or elements that make up the mesh itself. But the patch, while holding a terrain mesh, has more functionality in controlling the overall idea of a patch.
Yep.
Okay.
So I guess we should create one.
Alrighty.
So let me go ahead and stop Unity. Jump over into Visual Studio. Let's go ahead and close up some of the other stuff I don't need. We'll go to the terrain system. We'll create a new class. And we will call this one TerrainPatch. Do our initial cleanup. In this first video, other than describing what it is, pretty much what I want to do is just set up the initial fields, properties, or fields and properties for the class, and then we'll come back and we'll add more functionality through the methods and constructors in subsequent videos. So we're going to start off with, well, actually I can't do this field yet because we don't have a terrain manager yet. We'll have to come back and put that in after we have a terrain manager.
You're such a tease.
Yes, I know, but it's that whole what comes first. It's like, oh, do I make the terrain manager first, or do I make the terrain patch first? So, we will make some fields. We'll do a vector 3 position, ahead and add Unity Engine in. This will have a getter and a private set. Let's see, we'll do a pub. No, I'm not going to add that one either. Another one that we're going to leave out. Well, I was going to make a list of vertices, but unfortunately, we don't have the vertex class yet either.
Clash?
Another thing, class.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I said, class.
Sure.
I did, really.
I know, we don't have the vertex class yet.
Class.
That's right.
Give me a hard time. I can't believe it. All right, so we do have a train mesh, though, so we can create that one now. So we use our train mesh, we'll call it mesh. Again, it's going to have a getter and a private setter. Then we will go with a priority. So we use our queue priority that we have from our threading class, or from our threading system. So, and I will call this priority. This one will have a getter and a setter. Now, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to create a field that's going to be our world position. So,
Thought you were about to say world precipitation. Whoa.
Yeah, no, I haven't worked on that system too much yet. So, at least not enough that we can start talking about it.
True.
So, we're going to have a world position. Now, our world position is going to return our position, which is the position of our specific patch, but we're also going to modify it based off of our patch size and its spacing. So we're going to go and call on config get int. Oops. So get int vertex count -1, and multiply that by config dot get float, and this will be vertex spacing. So what this is going to do for us is basically the calculation that we were doing inside of our update here, where we're modifying our size or our position based off of size and spacing so we could offset it correctly. I don't want to do that in the mesh. The mesh, I want everything to be considered a local position. I don't want it to have to calculate the size of the patch and everything else when positioning. So I'm going to delete this code here, and we're going to allow the TerrainPatch to deal with that detail. The other thing that I want to do is make a private bool called enabled, and then I'm going to give it a property for accessing it. So we'll do bool enabled for get. It's just going to return enabled. But our setter is going to have some functionality in it. Basically, we're going to set enabled to equal our value. And then we're going to do a check. Clean that up. That just basically says if mesh does not equal null, the other mesh, not that mesh, then we will set that meshes renderer or mesh renderer enabled equal to enabled. So this will be our property that will allow us to show and hide the mesh, and we'll access that through the patch as opposed to directly talking to the mesh. So that will take care of this part of it. And let's see, what else do I want to do in here? Let's go ahead and actually, I think we'll call it here.
Okay.
In the next video, what I want to do is we'll deal with the constructors as well as a couple of the helper methods.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, with
So.
that, that's going to wrap up this video.